8 years old. He's driving 300 kilometers to play games at 8 years old, that valuable. So I'm curious about Kim's circumstance in her association of tiering the teams differently at that age group and competing internally versus competing externally and putting all those extra pressures on people. Those are ethical decisions that have to be made, and I think there has to be more sensibility there. So,
well,
anyway.
I think a lot of those decisions are made on Wally, on associations making decisions because that's what their parents want, and they want their kids in their association or their hockey program or whatever. So I sometimes coaches don't get to make those decisions. They're made for them, right? Like, I don't agree with tiering hockey at a real young age. I don't get it. I mean, I think there's other programs that if parents really think their kids need to be in other programs, they can put them in spring programs or summer programs, which I have very mixed feelings on those as well. But anyhow, I think it's handling kids is not easy. And it's really not easy for people that coach that don't have kids and don't understand kids and haven't raised kids, especially at those really young ages.
Rick, what's your thoughts on tiering at what age?
I'll start with it's not real hockey comment. When you say the small ice games, the novice situation right now, that's the biggest argument that comes up against it. It's not real hockey. I want my kid to play real hockey. That goes back to when I started coaching. And just a quick anecdote, be the early 80s, and I moved into a new organization, and they had tryouts for 3 Tiny Mite teams, which at the time was 7, 8, 9. We had 40 kids or whatever on the ice, and on a Saturday morning they said, okay, let's go upstairs and pick the teams. I was new to town, so the fellow that was helping me, I said, why don't you go up? You know everybody up there. I'll stay on the ice and run the session because they hadn't provided for that in their process. He said, well, who do I pick? And I said, well, you got your son, my 2 boys, and you know what kids, we were bringing a group of recreational kids up from a smaller town, and then take the ones that the rest don't want. And that was the way our team was selected. And we played a couple of games amongst ourselves and lost by double digits, and tried a couple of other teams and lost again. So I went to our parents and asked them to okay me running basically a hockey school until after Christmas. And I got the resistance again. It's not real hockey. That's not what we signed up for. And I said, after Christmas, we'll join the circuit. We'll play in tournaments. But I said, these kids just aren't ready to compete with these guys. Long story short, by the end of the year, we beat both of those teams and quite a few others along the way. To answer your question, I don't have an answer for when it's proper. I believe I tier my own teams to the top end, the middle end, and the lesser end, if you will. You call them Eagles, Hawks, and Falcons. I trained them all the same when I was doing it. They all had the same exercises, but they did it within their peer groups within that overall structure. They were able to do it at their own pace, and in my opinion, they all progressed because of that, as opposed to allowing the dominant players to dominate all the situations and win all the competitions. When you take that concept into competitive situations with league play and so on, obviously opposing coaches will exploit that. But I also played my teams. My lower tier team played together, and they learned to survive on their own out there without somebody taking the puck all the time. If they wanted it, they had to go get it, and they were very quick to pick up on that. And that brought their enthusiasm and their activity level up. So I don't have a simple answer, Wally, and I don't believe there is a simple answer. And I think the biggest problem is it's not real hockey if you don't do that and if you're not able to compete on an equitable basis across the board. So we make do with the best situation, the best solution we can provide for the situation. That's been my experience, and I've used it since that time.
This is a question I think's been asked for a lot longer than we've been involved in hockey, and nobody has come up with the right answer. And I don't believe there is a right answer.
Well, Rick, I wanted to compliment you on your approach. Really, the first half of the year is development, and the results will come. And can coaches develop like you did in the first half? Do they have the tools and the resources, the wherewithal? Well, they try their best. They do need mentorship. That's something that we've experimented with and trying to find some models for development that they could follow. But it's a lot easier to develop with half ice hockey because there isn't a score clock yet. Once you have the score clock, I think what you say about compete is so important. Effort and being able to compete in sport, that's a life skill. And that's something that I think in the communication of what you're trying to accomplish with your players, that's one of your life skills. They're going to learn to work hard and they're going to compete, working harder. And the line between house hockey, generalizing, is it casual, don't care? I call it careless. Are they learning those life skills playing house hockey?
And I have that same question.
Yeah. And I think even in house hockey, you're on a team, you have a responsibility to work hard, to listen, being coached. It's not about developing bad life skills. And I think that's what you play the game for, to be fit. And it is fun if you work hard and you put in the effort. But if you don't try and you don't compete, you're not learning life's lessons. So I think that's still possible in house hockey to make those points relatively to the degree that you do with the group of kids you got. But I like your point, and that's where caring sort of established ability that's doesn't really make sense until they mature age-wise, physically, they physiologically, emotionally develop much later.
Wally, can I just add something to that? You're talking about the house level and learning life skills, and I agree with you totally. But a lot of parents, they've got their kids in house league hockey because they don't want the commitment, and so they don't feel it's necessary to be at every practice. Or if we've got something to do with the family on the weekend, we're not going to attend a game or whatever. So again, it's a tough situation, I think.
Well, in house hockey, I think you might allow that. I mean, they got holidays.
Right.
When parents of a AAA midget team and a high-level soccer team that my granddaughter was on go away on a holiday during the playoff, that's not right.
I agree totally.
And that's something that needs to be addressed up front at that level. It
Exactly.
wasn't, and it occurred. So the culture and expectation isn't clarified. At the house level, I would accept that.
Yes, so would I. But I think
And
that
I
needs
think
to be understood
if
at the
you
beginning.
communicate that, but when they're there, when they're present, when they're practicing, they're listening,
Then there's an
they're trying to
expectation.
do what you ask them to do. And when they're playing, you want them to compete. And if they're frustrated, you don't want what to happen when they shot a puck down and the kid emotionally lost it, Angie's boy, and literally could have broken his neck. That's an extreme behavior that really, could have, any one of us could have been guilty of. We would have been just as frustrated as that coach. But no, it's good stuff, Rick. And as usual, whenever you speak, I highlight with my highlighter because I'm gonna put that in for minor hockey people. That element of not tearing too soon. I think Adam is whole ice. You can tear. Novice, I don't think there is tearing now in novice. I don't believe there is, and that's healthy. And it is